movies, let's get into my list. So I got a couple of lists. I was like, I'm gonna combine all this together and I'm gonna edit down all of these later on to like separate videos because I was like, I didn't want to kind of cut off the show and then just come back on. I'm like, oh yeah, look, a separate video. I'll just edit it down and put it as a separate thing so people want to come in the later ones who want to watch the thing and want to chime in. But if y'all want to chime in into the live, that definitely can in regards of, you know, my horror movie choices. Because 2024, in my opinion, was definitely a great year for horror movies. So, as a huge cinephile, those of you who know me and basically watch this show, y'all already know how I feel about like horror. It's like one of my favorite genres. I like all types of genres. I love action movies. I like some comedies. The distasteful, the better. I like toilet humor as long as it's cleverly done. I like a drama. I like all type of genres, but my go-to will always be like the horror genre because I just love the fact that when it comes to horror that they're not afraid of experimenting and trying different things and telling different stories and pushing the boundaries in regards of like the visuals and how they do storytelling, be it linear, albeit I should say linear or non-linear. Linear. Oh, non-linear. I said linear. What is going on with me today? So, we got like what, a day and a half left? Because today's almost gone, especially when being on the East Coast. There's a plethora of horror films that were released this year. It's coming to a close this year. And to me, a lot of movies did not disappoint. Now, there were some movies was terrible, but for the most part, I'm going to concentrate on some of my favorite movies that came out this year in regards of horror. So let's get into my list of horror films that not only push the story creatively, but also exceeded my expectations. And one of the ones that exceeded my expectations is none other than Smile 2. But that is on my list. We'll get to that later on. But for the most part, my first one is Immaculate. So Immaculate I'm starting from the bottom on the way up. So Immaculate was a film that definitely surprised me this year. It took me a while to even get around to watching that movie, but I know it was on Hulu. It took me like maybe since it was released on streaming about a month or two to get around to watching it. And when I watched it, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it, especially because Sydney Sweeney, I have a love-hate relationship with her, but she did her thing in this film as an American nun who was kind of questioning her faith in a lot of ways and kind of she goes to Italy to go to this convent where she's trying to, I guess, find herself and get back into connection with her faith. But then craziness ensues. You got this mad scientist priest who basically impregnates her with this creature or whatever the case was. There's a lot of sinister stuff that's going on. The nuns are going amok and seeing all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So that movie just started out as like this weird twist, like your typical nun horror movie. But then watching, I'm like, okay, you're taking me in a direction I wasn't expecting. So I thoroughly enjoyed the film. And I thought, you know what, for what it was entertaining. Now, the next film that I saw, this one happens to be on Shudder, speaking of spirits and all kinds of evil things, and it's called Exuma. I think is how you say it. Now, it's basically about a renowned shaman and her protege who are hired by a wealthy, enigmatic family. They begin investigating the cause of a disturbing supernatural illness that affects only the firstborn children of each generation. Now, with the help of a knowledgeable mortician, and the country's most revered geomancer, they soon trace the affliction origin to a long-hidden family grave located on sacred ground. Now, sensing an ominous aura surrounding the burial site, the team opts to exhume and relocate the ancestral remains immediately. But of course, when they're trying to do that, that's when all the crazy, evil, dark craziness ensues. And then realize that they messed with the wrong damn grave. So I watched this maybe like 2 months ago. It's on Shudder if you definitely want to check this movie out. Like a lot of the Korean horror stuff, it's actually pretty good. So if y'all get around to watching that, definitely check that out. Now, the next movie I have is a film called Oddity. Speaking of Shudder, this one is also on Shudder. So it's basically about a woman who was brutally murdered at a remote country house that she and her husband are renovating. Um, Everyone suspects that a patient from a local mental health institution where Ted is a doctor had did it. When he was the one that was warning her in the beginning, he was just like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't give too much away in regards to the film." So he was just like trying to tell her whatever the case was. It was pinned on him, but then her blind twin sister, who is basically a psychic and she collects cursed items, she paid an unexpected visit to Ted and his new girlfriend, and feels like there was more that meets the eye in regards to her sister's murder, and then all kinds of stuff ensues, and then she basically exacts revenge on the people that killed her sister. So if you get a chance to check, if you want to watch a really good, horror film, definitely check out The Oddity over on Shudder. Now I done beat. I already told y'all what the next one is gonna be. Speaking of Shudder, it's another Shudder movie, and this film, is basically like while we sit up in here waiting for the Friday the 13th mess to get untangled, there's In a Violent Nature. Now, I will warn you, if you have not seen In a Violent Nature, the whole theme regarding watching Johnny, the killer, as you see here, the Jason-like zombified character being serial killer, watching him kind of in a video game-ish type of way, where he's walking through the woods as, to get to his kills or whatever the case is, can be a little tedious at times. But the overall kills in this movie is relatively interesting. Now, if they decide to make a sequel, they're going to have to figure out how to make this franchise work outside of just having Johnny walk around all day through the movie. Because this could be like a one and done experience for a lot of people. And I know this was a killer, a mood killer for a lot of people when it came down to this film. So Johnny is basically a vengeful spirit, and he had killed some people 60 years ago. His body is resurrected after some people go and steal a locket from him that I believe his mother gave to him. So it's basically just going around trying to retrieve the locket. And once he gets the locket back, he can go back to his resting place and be left alone. But it definitely, like I was saying before, it definitely gives like a different vibe, which was like, it's sort of like he's a Jason Voorhees like killer, but with the stories being told from the point of view of the killer rather than just a group of teenagers, horny teenagers, getting picked off one by a serial killer. And based on this picture, and yes, I picked it on purpose, her death was the most insane. How he goes and puts the hook in her. People are like, well, she could have ran. I'm like, what you want her to do? Jump off the cliff? She would have died regardless. Where he basically stuck the hook in her head and pulled her head through her damn stomach after he ripped a hole in her gut. I was like, how the hell do y'all come up with this shit? But yeah, that kill was crazy. So I'm definitely curious to see cinematically where Chris Nash will experimentally take the sequel, because I'm sure we're getting a sequel. And I love the fact that he took this in a different direction. Now, speaking of nuns and demonic spirits and things, I told you I loved Immaculate, but also it was a surprise for me. The First Omen. That movie surprised me this year, which is basically about a young American woman who's sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church. She encounters a darkness that causes her to question her own faith and uncovers a terrifying conspiracy that hopes to bring about the birth of an evil incarnate, which, if you think about it, is kind of like the same plot, similar plot, The First Omen and Immaculate have, but different executions of how they tell the story. So basically, this was the story of how Damien Thorn was born. But then again, in the original Omen, excuse me, didn't they imply that that he was born from like a jackal? So I don't like that they changed up the lore a little bit, and that's one of the things that irritates me when I watch a lot of prequels. Is how you'll go in and you'll try to change up the lore. But then another movie that I liked was Cuckoo. I don't know if there's been a lot of people that's been talking about like what their favorite horror movies was, and I don't know if Cuckoo is necessarily on their list, but it is on mine. It was a weird freaking film, and I like Hunter Schafer, and it's an A24 film, so you're going to get weird when it comes to that. So damn, I just forgot her damn name just that quick. Hunter Schafer plays Gretchen who leaves her American home to live with her father, who's a pain in the ass in the movie, who and just moved into a resort in the German Alps with her family, her new family, who her father is with. Now, arriving at the future residence, they are greeted by Mr. Koenig, her father's boss, who takes an inexplicable interest in Gretchen's mute half sister Alma. Now, something doesn't seem right in this tranquil vacation paradise, as Gretchen is plagued by strange noises and bloody visions until she discovers a shocking secret that also concerns her own family. So, it was an interesting movie. I liked it. It was weird. I also like Dan Stevens. Sometimes I be wondering where is he from because he's able to put on these really convincing accents. Like we've seen him do an English accent in Godzilla versus Kong or Godzilla X Kong. Then he's doing a German accent in this movie. So he's like one of those really good accent actors. And I remember him from The Guest. That was like the first time I became aware of Dan Stevens. And he was really good in that movie. I love that movie as well as the 80s synthy soundtrack. So I'm gonna give y'all 2 for 1. If you haven't seen Cuckoo, definitely check that out. But if you also haven't seen The Guest, and I saw that in the theater back when I worked at AMC, I needed a movie to kill time to watch, and so I went to go see that, and I was surprised how good that movie is. I think Micah Monroe is in that movie too, who has kind of low key become like this new scream queen. A lot of people don't talk enough about Micah Monroe, but she's in Long Legs, and she's kind of been solidifying herself a little bit in like the whole horror movie genre. Now we're gonna take it back to Shudder with this movie, Arcadian, which stars Nicolas Cage, and it takes place in the near future. How and the Earth has been decimated, and basically has Nicolas Cage and his twin sons, which is played by Jaden Martell and Maxwell Jenkins. One of the sons was actually, I believe, in It Chapter One. They've been living a half life, tranquility by day and torment by night. When the sun sets, ferocious creatures of the night awaken and consume all living souls in their path. Now, one day when Thomas doesn't return home before sundown because he went to go visit a girl, and when he was supposed to try to return home, he slipped and fell into a cage. Paul basically has to leave their fortress, or basically what they've set up, the farm, to go return and get his son. And then there comes a situation where trying to rescue his son, Paul becomes wounded. So now the twins have to basically devise a plan on surviving the coming night and get their father home safe before it's too late. So it's a low budget movie, but the effects in the film I thought was really effective. It was minimal, but in my opinion, it was definitely effective. So what I love is that you do see the aliens at some point. They do keep them hidden in some parts. It's like, yeah, I was jumping a lot watching this movie. And the origins of the aliens were pretty much ambiguous, but I was freaking out during some of those scenes. So if you want to watch something that's like really creepy, definitely check it out. Arcadian. Another movie that is in that same boat that I just happened to see a couple of weeks ago, and I've been meaning to get around to it, Azrael, with Samara Weaving. And I like her. She's another one that's proving herself to be and getting into the whole horror genre. So, but this movie, I actually thought it was effective because nobody really talks in the film. They don't speak. But so it's a community that hunts down a young woman who has escaped their imprisonment. And I think they were trying to sacrifice her because these creatures that are attracted to blood, and just watching her try to survive throughout this whole film while these people are trying to recapture her and sacrifice her to these blood creatures or whatever the case is actually interesting, and seeing how she tries to survive the whole movie. So if you have a chance, definitely get around and check Azrael. It's another movie that's on Shudder. There's a lot of movies on here that is on Shudder. If you guys don't have Shudder, I don't know what y'all missing. Or you don't know what you're missing. Now, speaking of Shudder, is another one, VHS Beyond, which basically gives us 6 little short films, which is basically a merge of like horror and sci-fi, a lot of alien type stuff, zombie stuff, and I liked it. I thought there was a lot of ones that was in here was really good. I liked the first one when they had they were looking for this guy. I think he was like a cop or whatever. His son or one of his kids went missing, whatever. So they went into this house and it was like zombified. It was like all kinds of zombies in there. So it kind of gave me like this video game vibe. And you see this big creature that's walking around with a baby with a bag over his head. But my favorite My favorite segment from that, the skydiving scene in there did freak me out when the with the alien situation and how these little what was it? They were like 4-legged or 6-legged aliens was going around trying to kill all the people that survived the plane crash. That one freaked me out, but the one that really freaked me out was the dog people. And I believe that one was written and co-written and directed by Justin Long, who doesn't get enough credit in regards of like him as an actor and some of the stuff that he's appeared in. I've always liked Justin Long. I like Justin Long ever since he was in Jeepers Creepers. So yeah, he directed and co-wrote with his brother this specific segment. I cannot remember the title of it off the top of my head, but there's a segment in there where it's just like these people go on the cover to like this dog pound or whatever because they said they're abusing the animals, and then there's like a twist of events that happens that I was like, what the fuck am I watching? This is the most bizarrest segment, but I'm intrigued. So if you get a chance, definitely, VHS Beyond is one of the stronger contenders of the VHS franchise that's over there on Shudder. Another Shudder film. Well, this is the original Shudder has the original film is on Shudder of Speak No Evil. If you want to watch this version of Speak No Evil, I believe it's on Prime Video. Oh no, it's on Peacock. That's where it is. If you have Peacock, you can definitely check Speak No Evil over there. But if you want to see the original, I'm not sure if it is Norwegian or Sweden, one of the places. If you want to see the original version of Speak No Evil, it is on because it's a remake. You can go see that on Shudder. And I actually like this one. Although I did hear people say that, except for the third act, it's pretty much a remake of what you already see in the original Speak No Evil. And the funny part is, in the original Speak No Evil, yeah, it's a foreign film, and they speak mostly English, except in certain parts they do speak their native language. But for the most part, it's a predominantly English language film. But the remake, I did like it because they changed up the third act. They did add a new twist and made it its own film. So that's what I like. If you're going to remake something, then remake it. But if you're going to add a little something extra to it where it doesn't take away the essence of the original movie, then definitely check this one out, where it's basically an American family are invited to spend the weekend with at a country estate with this family on vacation. And then it becomes this big psychological nightmare. And I don't want to give away what the psychological nightmare and all the other stuff is or what these people's true motive is. But if you get a chance, definitely check it out. And James McAvoy definitely did his damn thing in this film. Oh yeah, I gotta leave it small because I realize it's gonna start changing up my pictures and stuff. So yeah, James McAvoy definitely did his damn thing, and the body was body. I was like, okay, sir, you went and hit the gym. Okay, so now my next segment, because they already saw that was spoiled, where you have, see, I got to leave it small. Where we have Infested. Now, I don't know if y'all seen Infested. This is on Shudder, too. It's a French horror film. If y'all don't like spiders, then don't see this movie. But it definitely gave me a run for my money in regards to seeing this. Yeah, I'm not a fan of spiders or whatever the case was, but it was, I mean, I tolerate them because they exist, but spiders, any kind of little bugs, whatever, and especially if they were like deadly spiders, this movie basically had me scratching. She was like, oh, get off me. So basically, it's about a kid named Caleb who's about to turn 30, and he's kind of feeling lonely. He's fighting with his sister over an inheritance and has cut ties with his best friend over some stuff that goes on. They explain it in the movie. But then, his best, how he seeks connection, he loves exotic animals. So he finds a venomous spider in a shop, basically brings it back to the apartment. The only problem is the spider manages to get out, and um it turns basically the entire building that the apartment complex he lives in, into a dreadful web trap. And so the only way that he and his friends, they just have to figure out basically in the movie of how to get out and survive, and then you see all the craziness that ensues with that. But the movie is directed by Sebastian Vinacek, who I've actually talked about on this show before. And if you like movies like Attack the Block, which is a movie I absolutely love, that was like the first time we became familiar with, oh my God, not Daniel Kaluuya, the other one. What's his name? That was in the Star Wars, the terrible ass Star Wars movies. But yeah, that was the first time we became familiar with the actor that was in Attack the Block. I love that movie. That's like one of my favorite films that came out of England. This one comes out of France. So yeah, Infested is a French horror film. And one of the things is the French are really good at like doing horror and stuff. And when we talked about Sebastian on the show was when a couple of weeks ago we talked about how he's set to direct the next Evil Dead movie. So if you see this movie and you like what he pretty much brought into Infested, I definitely have faith that he's going to do what needs to be done in regards of the next Evil Dead franchise. Now, I know some people probably won't consider this horror based off the subject matter, but I feel like based off the subject matter, it is a horror. Blink twice. I saw this movie and I was so damn uncomfortable watching it. Like me, when I watched it, I was like, why are we putting trigger warnings in movies? Like, I feel like when it comes to movies, it should be the overall experience that I go into when I'm watching a film. And that should just be enough. It's like, I'm going on this journey. I'm hearing great things about this film. I just want to go in completely blind. And that's that. However, after watching this movie, it definitely needed a damn trigger warning. This is where I feel like this is the exception to the rule. That, yeah, based on the subject matter and seeing women being repeatedly R-worded in this film, and the twistedness of going like how they started to remember that this was happening to them, I was like, okay. Now I'm extremely uncomfortable. And I will say this movie was directed and co-written by Zoe Kravitz. I was thoroughly impressed with the color palette, how she told the story. I definitely want to see more movies from her. I definitely think that Zoe Kravitz has what it takes. If the acting and everything goes south and they want to put her out the passion, she loses the passion for acting. I definitely would love to see her direct more. And we're starting to see that a lot with between her and Maggie Gyllenhaal's directing a Frankenstein movie, and then we have Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron Howard's daughter. She's been directing episodes of stuff over on Disney Plus. But yeah, so Channing Tatum plays a tech billionaire, and he was dating. I don't know if he was dating Zoe Kravitz at the time, but I think they probably had a thing as this film was happening. But yeah, so Channing Tatum plays like a tech billionaire who meets a cocktail waitress at his fundraising gala. Then sparks begin to fly between them. Now, the girl that he basically sparks a relationship with is the chick on the left. So basically, she goes to this private island, which was giving like Jeffrey Epstein vibes. And they're having a wild night. They're drinking, they're doing drugs, all kinds of stuff. Haley Joel Osment's in it. There's a lot of actors that's in this movie, which I was surprised to see Haley Joel Osment in that movie. So yeah, they're out living their best life, doing all kinds of drugs. They're drinking, they're partying. But then shit starts to happen. That there's something wrong with the place. She's slowly starting to uncover the truth about what's been going on at this party and how things get turned over on his head. So, in my opinion, yes, I agree that, what Kravitz shows a keen visual eye and a massive sense of pacing, creating a highly effective, star-studded thriller that is also a razor-sharp social commentary. So, it's definitely a movie y'all need to check out. I think I saw it over on MGM Plus. So I don't know if you have that channel, but if you don't, I'm sorry, but I'd say rent it. Or just wait until it comes out on one of the streaming services and then definitely check it out. But Blink Twice is definitely a movie that will stay with you after the credits roll. Now, if you're looking for some fun, gore-filled slashings or slasher movie, Stream is something I would recommend. So it's movies basically about a family who's trying to get back into like get a little sense of closure. So they go on a vacation. And what happens is they're staying at this hotel. Four deranged killers basically are patrolling the halls of their hotel. And it's basically a thing where on the black market, people are watching and they're competing for the most creative kills. And David Howard Thornton is actually one of the killers that's in it. As you know, or may not know, he plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier films. He is one of the killers that's in this film. Danielle Harris is in it. The late Tony Todd is in it. Felissa Rose is in it. So it's a lot of people. And the guy, I can't remember his name, from the Reanimator, the crazy mad scientist. So it's a lot of the pick of the litter of some of your favorite horror movie icons that you grew up with that are in this film. And I love me some Danielle Harris. So ever since she was a Halloween 4, the Return of Michael Myers, so she has become like our solidified Scream Queen icon. So if there's a movie you definitely want to check, and this was actually but the team behind Terrifier actually was put this together. Now, I will say the slasher isn't as smart as it wants to be in terms of social commentary, but it works well as if you want to watch a good cat and mouse thriller, if you want to see some really cool kills, if you want to see a lot of gore and blood and all that other stuff, if you're into that sort of thing, definitely check out Scream. That was like one of my favorite movies of 2024. If you just want to watch like a mindless horror film with some of your favorite horror icons being in the film. Now, my next choice is Abigail, which I done told y'all a million times. I went to the movies. I might have been the only one, but I was in the movies out there supporting Melissa Barrera when the rest of y'all was out here talking about we hate Scream and Scream this and Scream that. But then when the movie came out in the theaters, it flopped. But Abigail, it was a enjoyable horror film. A different take on vampires. It was like Megan with vampires. There's vampire ballerina. So basically, it's, a group of criminals kidnap a 12-year-old ballerina of a powerful underworld figure doing like a whole ransom situation, not realizing that this is a little game. What they've been put in is a trap, and she's basically food for these people. So, the movie is silly based on, just if you really look at like on a surface level, it is a silly film. But it's scary and it's a fun movie. And it was good to see Angus Cloud. This is like his final film that he was in it. Melissa Barrera's in it. Dan Stevens, who we were talking about earlier, he's in it. And the guy that was in, I think who plays her father, Abigail's father, was in Watchmen as the villain. So I will say that it does move a little slow to get going in regards to that. But once it gets going, it's like all the it goes off the rails. Now, here's a movie that surprised the hell out of me, and I will say this: like when I was talking about a movie that literally stayed with me after it was done, Strange Darling. Now, when I was talking about earlier in regards of Blink Twice, that it was like, you don't need trigger warnings. I just want to be able to go in blind, whatever the case is. This is a movie that you need to go in blind. If you know the least amount about what the plot is or what's going on in this, the better it will be, the better the experience will be for you in regards to this, because the way you think the story is going to go in regards to Strange Darling, you don't know. And I love the idea of the way they told the story. They kind of told it. See, I always get it confused if it's like when it's linear or non-linear, which is like, it kind of follows like the Kill Bill way of storytelling, which is it tells it in different chapters, but out of sequence, like not in order. So it's like it'll start off at chapter 5, and then it'll go to chapter 3, and then it'll go back to chapter 5 or chapter 4, and I just love the way they were telling the story and from the different points of view. And then when you think, it was like, okay, now this is like your typical, okay, this person's going on a date and the person turns out to be a serial killer. But then when you watch the movie, it's like, oh, I thought I knew where this movie was going. And the whole thing about the whole murder spree and seeing Kyle Garner's, I don't know, there's something sexy I find about Kyle Garner. Maybe it's because he looks like he's a little rough around the edges. And I loved him in Smile too, but he's also in this one. So he's in 2 favorite horror movies of mine that came out this year. And anything with a serial killer or something in it, I do consider it horror, even though it's maybe on the surface, some people wouldn't consider Strange Darling a horror film. But in my opinion, you going around killing people and you a serial killer, it's giving horror movie vibes. Just like I feel like Silence of the Lambs is a horror film, even though the Academy doesn't seem to think that it is. It is. So trust me when I tell you, the twists and the turns will have you thinking differently by the time the credits roll. This is a movie that I don't think enough people are speaking about, that y'all need to go out and check out this film. Now, speaking of Kyle Garner, let's get into the other movie he was in, Smile 2, which if y'all watch this show, y'all already know I did not like the first Smile. I thought it was okay. I mean, I didn't mind Sosie Bacon, who is Kevin Bacon and Kira Cedric's daughter. Like, I didn't mind her as the lead in the film, when she played the what was it? The therapist and all this stuff. Like, I didn't mind the whole overall theme of Smile 1. I just didn't think that the execution for me, especially the third act, it falls apart for me in regards of that film. Now, Smile 2 surprised the hell out of me. And I think it also was because Naomi Scott sold the hell out of that damn part. where she played Sky Riley. And I even like the songs from her. So that's why I was like, Trap may have been a shitty film, but Trap had some good bops up in there. Shout out to M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, who was playing the pop thing. And I know a lot of people was comparing Smile 2 to Trap, but I was like, whereas Trap took place entirely at an arena, there's only the third act takes place at the arena. But you're seeing what's happening behind the scenes as Sky Riley is falling apart because this smile demon is overtaking her and all the twists and turns that came up with that. So, and basically the overall theme of the film, if you take out the whole smile demon situation, this was a girl who was overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressures of fame. And I think it probably resonated because we see a lot of this, and we've been seeing this happen a lot with a lot of pop acts when it comes to what they are out here doing. So we can relate in that sort of way. So that's why I love Smile too. And plus, a lot of the kills and stuff that was going up in it, especially during certain scenes, which I was mad because in the trailer it was giving away some things, especially on how a certain character died in the opening sequence. If y'all didn't see it yet, but like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. If y'all want to see Smile 2, I believe it is on HBO Max. So definitely check that movie out if y'all get a chance. Now, child, I should have rented this movie. The next film I'm gonna pick, but I ended up buying it on a whim because I was like, I love this actress, and I've been hearing so much about it. So I was like, let me buy it. The Substance. Child, when I tell you this movie grossed me the hell out, it grossed me the hell out. The body, I am not, I will tell you, the one thing that I do not like body horror. David Cronenberg, I don't even know how sometimes I sit through and watch a lot of his movies and stuff, but I've been a fan of, I am a fan of David Cronenberg. Like I like The Fly and all the other films that he's done in the past. And even I think one of his kids did a body horror film with Alexander Skarsgård. But The Substance, I remember I was watching this freaking movie, and one of the things I will say about it, once you get past the body horror stuff, which you understand where that comes from, the consequence, that person that she birthed out of her back, that girl pissed me off. I was like, can y'all kill this bitch? Please kill this bitch. So she was irritating me through that whole movie. It was the greed that was getting to her. So all you had to do was birth this person and y'all each get a week, 7 days to kind of live your best life and do whatever. The bitch was getting greedy, which the reflections of her actions, the consequence of her actions was being reflected on Demi's character, who was playing like this Jane Fonda-esque type workout girl who looked flawlessly beautiful, still beautiful, body was on point, but because she's old, you had people trying to push her out for the next big shiny new thing, which was an extension of her, which she did when she went and did the whole substance thing. Because this guy, when she got into a car accident, she goes to the hospital, and the guy introduces her to this stuff in regards of like, oh, I had to be forever young, da da da, so on and so forth. Call this number, and then you can, this thing will change your life. And the craziness ensues in regards to that. But this was like, now this is a role that I feel like Demi Moore should get nominated for. But because of the overall subject matter, I can see the prudes over at the Academy being like, no, this is horror, and we don't want to nominate but nominate her then. Don't nominate the fucking movie. But I just hate like these guardrails that the Academy puts on things because the movie doesn't fit in the narrative of what they want to promote and endorse. So yeah, the movie, in my opinion, is just gross. It's clever, and in my opinion, Demi Moore's finest body of work. So Coralie Fargeat, I thought, did a phenomenal job with the movie that she did, and it's basically trying to, create a better version of yourself. And that's what basically it's about. And it's about youth and the fact of how we don't want to get old and how we kind of look our nose down at older people. And, it should be easy that, okay, you get 7 days, I get 7 days. But then in day 6, or at the end of day 7, an opportunity presents itself And then it's like, well, damn, I want to extend my life a little more. So now let me go and shove this used needle, which was disgusting, by the way, that she did in one of the scenes, and let me suck out her spinal fluid and shoot it in my leg so that way I'm still able to stay up and stay alive, and then steal more time when that wasn't part of the deal. And that's what happened. So if y'all get a chance, definitely check out The Substance. That movie grossed me out, but I'm like, you know what? In a way, I'm glad I bought it because I might end up watching it a couple more times. It's like even after the movie's done, it stays with you. It's still on my mind to this day. Like I'm still thinking about The Substance. And so shout out to Demi Moore in regards of this phenomenal role that she took on. Because I couldn't see nobody else playing that part. Now, my number one choice, of course, got to be Terrifier 3. Now, you know, I absolutely freaking love this movie. I love Damien Leone. I love Art the Clown. I don't know, and I'm not really a big fan of clowns. Although I will say this, the only two clowns I like was three. I like Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise the Clown. I love Tim Curry's Pennywise the Clown, and I love Art the Clown. So maybe I am a clown fan, fan of clowns. Send in the clowns. So, the third one is basically about after Sienna and her brother survived Art the Clown's Halloween massacre. Now we move on from Halloween to Christmas. And they're trying to get their life back in order. Sienna's brother's off to college. Sienna's trying to get her life back. She was in a mental institution. Then her aunt and uncle basically take her in and she's trying to get her life back, or whatever the case was. And then Art the Clown basically comes out and he's looking for her and hunting down. All kinds of crazy stuff ensues in this film. So if you like movies like Black Christmas, well, shout out to Olivia Hussey, who I just heard passed away, I think like 2 days ago. And if you like movies like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and a lot of those type of vibes of horror, Christmas, and all that other stuff, definitely check this movie out. This movie was twisted. The gore was aplenty. And I got my life when I went to go see this movie in a theater. So that is my overall list of favorite horror movies of 2024. So I want to hear from you guys. What were your picks of best horror films of 2024? Whatever those were your favorite. I'll say, let me know your favorite and your least favorite. Whatever they are, let me know in the comments.